going on, Vikings fans? Welcome to the Vikings Now by Chat Sports. I am your host, Patrick Siepman. Coming up on today's show, we got a fun one for you guys to close out your Monday, as we got a new report on J.J. McCarthy starting next season, and also a cool story about J.J. actually buying a former Minnesota Twins legend his home this past week. So we'll talk about that. And then also Sam Darnold, Nick Mullens, who should start? I got a pretty definite answer on that one. Then also we will look at the NFC playoff picture and who the Vikings would play right now if the playoffs started tomorrow, and also just talk about the NFC as a whole. Is why I still think the Vikings have a very good chance to, maybe not come out the NFC, but at least to be in the NFC Championship game. But before we do so, guys, cheers to all of you. We actually crossed over 41,000 subs on our live stream yesterday. Just the support on the channel has been awesome, and it really does go a long way here when you guys subscribe. Dive down in the comment section, hit that thumbs up icon. I understand I ask you guys to do it all the time, but it really does go a long way. And, in the month of October, out of all of our channels here at Chat Sports, Vikings Now actually picked up the most amount of subs. So all credit to you guys. Thank you so much for 41,000 subs. And if you guys haven't already and want to stay up to date around the latest around your favorite football team, hit that sub button. I'm working my tail off here to get you guys at least one video a day. Some days like today, we'll get you guys too. So make sure you guys hit that subscribe button, lock us in, and let's dive into this cool story around J.J. McCarthy. So this is the report we're talking about. We'll dive into that here in a second. But apparently J.J. has bought Joe Mauer's Sunfish Lake home. Obviously one of the best catchers of all time, one of the most prominent members of the Twins organization. And I think it's pretty cool that he bought his, lake home in Sunfish. And maybe there's some greatness still in the walls there in that home. Maybe it rubs off on J.J. McCarthy just a little bit, but I think it's a really, really cool story that he's, buying Joe Mauer's lake home in Sunfish. So that's a cool story there. But the report around J.J. is this. They're coming in from Charley Walters, pretty tapped-in beat reporter for the Minnesota Vikings. He said this in an article lately. He said the Vikings QB for next season will be rookie J.J. McCarthy. For the Vikings to consider a mega deal for Sam Darnold, it's likely he would have to take them to the NFC Championship or even the Super Bowl. So how do I read that? I think Darnold still got a chance. Even though he's coming off one of his worst games of the season yesterday against the Jacksonville Jaguars, if he is still able to turn it around, go on a playoff run where he plays his tail off, wins a couple playoff games, then maybe they lose in the NFC Championship, I could see the Vikings trying to swing him for maybe a 2-year, $40 million deal, but it's going to come down to price. I promise you this. Even though, the market for Darnold may be a 3 for a $100 million deal, whatever it may be when the season ends, the Vikings will not pay him that because their ideal situation is they have JJ on his rookie contract and they build a stacked roster around him, very reminiscent of how the 49ers got to 2 Super Bowls with Garoppolo and Brock Purdy. You have a QB on a cheap deal. You have a loaded roster around him. But, from what I took away from that article from Charley Walters is that Darnold has a chance. But, again, he's going to need to play his absolute tail off and play better than what he did yesterday. And quickly on J.J. McCarthy, I went to high school with the kid. He is everything you want in a franchise quarterback. The intangibles, he acts like a franchise QB. He's a great teammate. He's always positive, and he's addicted to the process. He's not really too concerned about the results on a day-to-day basis. He's just concerned about getting better. And I think when you have a QB with that mindset, we're going to see him, even from this last preseason game against the Raiders. I guarantee you when we see him in the preseason next season, he will be a whole lot better. But, if Darnold continues his play like he had against the Jags, he will be out of town. And, I think the Vikings, my biggest takeaway from yesterday's game was this team is loaded. The coaching staff is fantastic. I understand people get, caught up in the Kevin O'Connell getting too cute on certain play calls, but I think he is still a top 5 play caller. I think Flores is the second best defensive coordinator in the NFL, probably behind Spags over there in Kansas City. But they got a loaded coaching staff. And if Darnold, if he has a performance like he did against the Colts or the Jags again, and you're playing a good football team, even a team, like the Cardinals or Falcons, who the Vikings have at home in the next coming weeks, you will lose those games. But still, the Vikings yesterday were the first team since 2006 to have 0 touchdowns, throw 3 interceptions, and win a football game. I think that speaks to the talent on this roster. And, just think about JJ again, if he is just a top 12 quarterback on a rookie deal, this team will be in the Super Bowl contention for the next 3 to 4 seasons and even potentially beyond that, because he will play in playoff games with how good this roster is. And if he can just kind of, be patient going through the learning curves, like, I really do believe JJ could be the man that takes the Vikings, to the promised land. And also, how funny of this, JJ, he grew up in Chicago, like myself, even though I was born in Minneapolis, but grew up in Chicago. How funny would it be if Bears fans have to watch a guy they passed up on go win a Super Bowl for their division rival? Now, I do want to talk about this real quick. A lot of Vikings fans are calling for Nick Mullens to start. I just think it's ludicrous. I think there's a 0% chance this happens. Main reason for that is, I understand Darnold, the turnovers are an issue. You got the same issues with, Nick Mullens. If we had like a Joe Flacco behind him, maybe I would consider it just a little bit. But, you at least will get the wild plays with Darnold. I understand you'll get some of the wild plays with Nick Mullens, but honestly, I think it's a pointless conversation to have of even considering going to Nick Mullens. So I don't really think it's a conversation. I don't think the Vikings are considering it. Even Aaron Jones on the Kay Adams show today said Sam Darnold is our guy. But speaking about J.J. McCarthy, if you guys want to show him some love, type those 9s, type his jersey number down below in the comments section, as he's still battling through this rehab process here. And I just can't wait to see him back out there in the purple and gold and really slinging it for Kevin O'Connell and this offense. Now, coming up next, we got the latest Vikings playoff chances. How does the NFC playoff picture look right now? But before we do so, got to give a massive shout-out to today's sponsor. I got to give a massive shout-out to today's presenting sponsor, and that is Public Rec. Now, for a limited time only, our listeners get 20% off when you use code CHAT20 at checkout. That's 20% off with the code CHAT20 at publicrec.com. Now, let's be real, guys. Wearing nice pants sucks. Who decided that stiff, uncomfortable fabric squeezing your family jewels was the key to looking sharp? Well, here's an early holiday gift from me to you. Those days are finally over. Public Rec's Daymaker pants are here to make sure you stay comfy and classy this season. They feel like your favorite sweats, but look like tailored pants. Yup, super stretchy with an elastic waistband so you can rock them anywhere, whether that's on a date or crushing a couple beers with the fellas on game day. And they also have this sweet sweatshirt that I'm rocking right now. It is incredibly comfortable. My girlfriend Sam was giving me all types of compliments when I was rocking this on date night. So you guys definitely need to take advantage and head over to publicrec.com/chat20 for 20% off. So stop the suffering in regular pants and give the gift of comfort this holiday season. For a limited time only, our listeners get 20% off when you use code CHAT20 at checkout. That's 20% off with code CHAT20 at publicrec.com. After you purchase, they'll ask where you heard about them. Please support our show here at Vikings Now and tell them that we sent you. Say goodbye to pants that put up a fight, because when comfort meets style, you have found Public Rec. All right, so this is how the NFC playoff picture looks right now. Shout out to the freaking Houston Texans for blowing that game against the Detroit Lions yesterday, or else all teams in the NFC, at least the top dogs, would all have 7 wins. It would be a 3-way tie between the Vikings, Eagles, and Lions, but the Texans just absolutely blew that game away. But right now, the playoff picture stands like this. The Vikings would be traveling to Arizona wildcard weekend. I would love that matchup there. But again, if that's around, or if that's against like the Rams or the Niners, you're not feeling as confident in it. I think Flores would do a number on Kyler Murray and that offense, but the Falcons, they're leading their division. The Eagles, they're leading their division. They're getting hot at the right time. Then the wild card teams right now. I think what you guys see right here, this will be the 7-team playoff for the NFC. I don't think the AFC or the NFC West will get another team. I don't think the NFC South will. I think it's going to be 3 teams from the NFC North, Vikings, Packers, and Lions. And then the other team of the Eagles or Commanders will get that last wild card spot. But I kind of want to dive into a couple of teams here and just talk about a potential matchup with the Minnesota Vikings. And we can start off with who they would be playing if the season ended today. That's the Arizona Cardinals. Now, Cardinals, they're a fun story this year. Kyler is a hell of a quarterback. I really think, like, he has almost became extremely underrated. Like, this is a guy who was a top 10 pick in the NFL and MLB. He is just one of the best athletes on the field. But I think they're about a year away. I don't love their talent defensively. I love their head coach and what he's been able to do on that side of the football. But, again, like, if the Vikings would have to go to Arizona, play in a dome, like, I still am a big believer that they would go in there and get a win. Now, a team that I would be a little nervous about playing wild card weekend, let's just say the Lions get the 1 seed, Eagles end up getting the 2 seed, and the Vikings are somehow the 7 seed, and you got to travel to Philadelphia, man, that would be an issue because I do think the Vikings defense struggles against elite receiver talent like A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, one of the best tandems in the league. We kind of saw them get carved up against the Los Angeles Rams, a couple Thursday nights ago. But still in this game, I would have a lot of faith in the Vikings, mainly because of the coaching mismatch. Like, Nick Sirianni is one of the biggest boneheads in the NFL. Like, he will try to lose that game for the Eagles, but, still, the talent disparity, I think would be seen. But again, I would feel comfortable in almost the Vikings offense going to Philadelphia. If you can take care of the football, they should be able to move it at a very high level, especially with TJ Hawkinson getting back. I mean, he looked fantastic against the Jags yesterday. But again, not really too worried about the Eagles. Now, the Packers, I think the Vikings are going to sweep the Packers this year. And if they would have to play them a third time in the playoffs, it would be tough for them to match up since they would both probably be wild card teams. So only would probably happen in the NFC Championship. But a little early look, like if the Packers or Vikings are able to knock off the Lions and these two met in the NFC Championship, whether that's in Lambeau or whether that's in Minneapolis, I kind of like the Vikings' chances in that game because Jordan Love, us Vikings fans are complaining about the interceptions that Sam Darnold throws. Jordan Love has the same amount of interceptions this season, and he's got even more what the F are you doing type of throws. So I would feel comfortable in Brian Flores and that defense getting it done. Honestly, if you match up with the Packers in the playoffs, I could see that being like a 17 to 16 win for the Vikes. But I'll tell you what, I would love a matchup of the Vikings heading to Atlanta. This defense is terrible. I think the Vikings will be able to move the ball. And then also with Kirk Cousins, obviously not being the most mobile guy, I think Flores would turn the heat up in the kitchen. And I think the Vikings would be extremely, extremely successful against this team. So not worried about the Falcons, Eagles, Cardinals, or Packers in the playoffs. But I do have two teams from the NFC West that I would be nervous about. And this would be the Rams. Number one, Stafford's a way better quarterback than Sam Darnold. And also, I think Sean McVay, he's not a way better head coach and a way better play caller than Kevin O'Connell, but he is definitely better. Like, he is just an upgraded version of it. And plus, Stafford and Kupp and McVay, they have all won a Super Bowl. They have been there. They know what playoff football is like. So I would very, very much hope that the Vikings are able to, somehow avoid the Rams in the playoffs because I think that would be a tough matchup. And now this team right here, it's not like I would be terrified of the San Francisco 49ers, but I wouldn't love to play them. Like, obviously, the Vikings already beat them at home, but if you would have to travel to San Francisco wildcard weekend and maybe a 6-3, 7-2 spot, like, it would be an uphill battle. Like, the Niners are getting healthy. They got McCaffrey back this week. He looked good in his return. But, again, there's just something weird there in San Fran. They don't take special teams too seriously. I feel like there's some disarray in the locker room a little bit. I mean, we had Debo fighting the long snapper on the sidelines. Like, I would still feel confident in a game against the Rams, or against the 49ers, excuse me. But, the team you're going to have to go through and the team that every team in the NFC is looking to play in the playoffs would have to be the Lions. They're a wagon. That win yesterday was just awesome. Really, I mean, it's just credit to what they've built over the last couple of years. So shout out to the Lions, man. I hate giving them credit, but they are truly one of the better teams in the NFL. I think they're the best team in the NFC. So if the Vikings got matched up with them, wouldn't feel too confident in a win. But again, in the playoffs, anything can happen. You get a pick six, you turn the ball over, anything can happen. We just saw Goff yesterday throw 5 picks. What if he has 3 picks against the Vikings, a defense who can force turnovers? But right now, I got the Vikings as the second best team in the NFC. You guys let me know your thoughts. Vikings are the blank best team in the NFC. We'll see you guys next time. As always, let's go Vikes.